super excited to be hosting this and seeing you all. So for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Walter Menino. I am currently based in Denver, Colorado. It's been the longest winter here, so ready for some sunny weather. I am the Senior Business Development Manager at Hubspot for Startups, where I currently manage our operations in the Pacific Northwest and Mountain Region. Before joining HubSpot for Startups, I was the Global Partnership Manager for Techstars, where I supported founders with the best products and resources on the market. And today, super excited, we'll be joined by Kelsey Gernert, who is the head of West Coast growth and operations for HubSpot for Startups. Kelsey will be running us through content strategy and how you can build that for your own business. But before we start, I just wanted to let everybody know that we'll be sending everyone a free content marketing workbook and a link where you can access your own free CRM to track prospects for your business. And then also don't forget, I put a link in the chat, but for being a part of the Startup Grind community, you now have access to 90% off HubSpot products. All right, so let's get started. Kelsey is joining us from beautiful Portland, Oregon. Like we said earlier, please don't forget to ask any questions. We're super excited to be here. And then I'll be handing it off to Kelsey.
Thank you, Walter. All right. Well, first of all, I dropped a quick ask for you in the chat. I am going to warn you, I am a former teacher. So in my pre-software life, and I love engagement. So I'm going to be encouraging you to engage with us throughout. The question I dropped into the chat is just what you would love to get out of today's session. I know that you're busy. I have been a founder before myself. You are wearing a million hats. Every minute of your day is multitasked and precious. So let's make sure that we make the most of this session. There's a million recorded online toolkits, content out there, but you're deciding to tune in live. So let's make it happen. All right. Thank you. Robert's already jumped in. Ron, framework for developing your own strategy. Again, you can also use your emojis to be able to upvote this if you want to be able to tack on to somebody else. So everybody should be seeing right now, building a scalable content marketing strategy. That's what we are here for. If you are looking for something wildly different, you are in the wrong stage. But jumping in a little bit, giving a tiny bit of background, we are representing HubSpot for Startups. If you don't know HubSpot in general, we are a free CRM with a sales, marketing, service hub, ops hub, and CMS hub built on top of it with over 600 integrations. So essentially, if you kind of take the core bits of, let's say, Salesforce, Marketo, Calendly, MailChimp, Zendesk, Hootsuite, a handful of others, roll them into one. That's what we do. So that is our platform. We also have an exclusive discount offer for all of our Startup Grind community. So we are going to share that with you as well. Walter will drop that into the chat. And this is one of the things that we do to provide education and resources to our founder community. We also have a lot of online content that we will be sharing out post-event. I'm going to just take a second to intro myself. I know that you are not here to hear about my life story, but you probably want to know, why am I talking about this and what do I know in this space? So I started off my career, as I said, as a teacher and working in educational nonprofits, where I essentially launched a different startup in a different geo each year and grew the program. Loved it. Decided that I wanted to be able to kind of expand my skill set. Went to get my MBA, and then I started to work for a founder who had been in the business for 30 years and wanted to scale, but didn't really have the systems and processes to do that. Everything was reliant on that founder. So I helped them to be able to develop some sales, marketing, and operations strategies that helped them to scale into a multinational organization within the 3 years that I was there. From there, I was running a sales team in the travel industry, lots of fun, lots of air miles. And then I decided that I really wanted to go in and start my own business. So I opened up several brick and mortar plant-based juice bar cafes in Boston, which is where HubSpot is headquartered and how I met up with them. Really enjoyed that process, learned a lot. That being said, I realized at a certain point, I like to be able to build and scale to a certain extent, but I didn't see myself being able to scale that business for the next, 15, 20 years. And at that point, I was approached by HubSpot for Startups, where I get to do a little bit of everything that I love. I get to support the founder community. I get to be a part of a product that I really care about, that I use to help create content as a business owner, and be able to share some great resources and thought with all of you. So I am gonna look over at the chat real quick. It seems like what you guys want to get out of here is a little bit of where to start, how to create content on a small budget. So let's talk a little bit of prioritization. What tools we use. Heidi, great question. Obvious plug for HubSpot. This is what we use for all of our internal tools across our 5,000 something person organization. Adjusting social media strategy. We can definitely dig into that a little bit. ROI is huge, especially because you want to be able to prove the value of what you are doing. What are some of the changes in the industry that was working before versus now? We're going to go into that right off the bat. Expert feedback. Hopefully you'll consider me an expert, and then I'll give you feedback. And identifying which social media platforms are best for my startup. So we're going to delve a little bit into social media, but I can also answer a lot more of that in our Q&A and possibly future pitch for Startup Grind. We also do an amazing session on social media marketing and how to utilize all of your channels, including some newer channels that are going to help you figure out what the ROI is. All right, so jumping in. Today's agenda, we're going to talk through our top 3 marketing challenges. We're going to talk about how this buyer's journey has changed. So speaking to what George, I believe, asked, like, what is the difference? How has this evolved? How can we stay relevant and current? And then we're going to talk through the 7 steps of content marketing strategy, and then leave a healthy amount of time for Q&A. All right. So these are a lot of companies that you're familiar with. They have a high share of markets. They're thought leaders. They're well established. They're aware of their customer needs, and they have high brand equity. So this is ideal. How do you get into that place? Well, it's not easy, right? So it takes a lot of collaboration between sales and marketing to be able to grow and establish these strong brands. And to start off, we're going to discuss our top 3 blockers. So we surveyed over 120 marketers and asked, like, what are the 3 things standing in your way? Drop into the chat. Let me know if you think that we are on pace with what your challenges are. But by far, generating traffic and leads was marked by nearly half of people as the biggest challenges that marketers are facing this year. They're saying, like, I just can't fill my pipeline, or I have a ton of leads, but they're just not converting in the sales pipeline. Let me know if this sounds familiar to you. And this challenge was followed by 21% who said proving the ROI for your marketing activities was their biggest challenge. So maybe you are saying, like, hey, we're posting organically, we're using paid media, SEO, nothing is working. And at the end of the day, I just don't know how to prove my efforts to my leadership team. Thus, I can't prove ROI. So when we jump into these in a little bit of depth, I want to give you just some quick tips on how to overcome each one of these. So first, when we are talking about generating traffic and leads, you want to be doing things like A/B testing to understand what works. You also want to be able to expand into diverse channels. Maybe you have one that's really working, but don't just double down there. Spread out the wealth. There are so many different channels to use, and that's going to help you a bit with generating traffic and leads. When it comes to proving ROI, we're going to get to this a little bit later when we're discussing building content strategy. And the good news, though, is that when we can generate leads and we can prove ROI, then it's a lot easier to secure budget and thus quantify our results and tell a really strong story here. But before getting into content marketing strategy, I first want to get into this evolution of the buyer's journey because it has changed a lot, especially in a fully remote world. So I want to introduce you to Timmy. Now, Timmy is your simple B2B buyer, mid-sized company. But at the end of his day, his job is really measured by employee satisfaction. So his goals are centered around that and how to improve productivity. Now, this was his former purchasing process. Let's also say maybe a pre-COVID purchasing process, because a lot of our conferences were in person, although we have some great virtual ones now as well. But let's say he visits a conference. He says, yeah, I'll meet you. Let's have a sales call. We go do a sales call, be able to meet in person, purchase, happy customer, done. And this process really relied heavily on sales, little on marketing, and it relies a lot on face-to-face. But as you know, this journey has evolved, it's changed, and buyers are now in control. So what that means is that the way we sell and buy today has gone through a tremendous amount of change. And that change is inevitable. And it also provides us with opportunities to be able to tweak our process. Buyers don't want cold calls anymore. They want to be more informed than ever before they actually engage. So on average, buyers are actually engaging with 13 pieces of content before even connecting with a salesperson, which means that 70% of the buyer's journey is complete before they even reach out to sales. Buyers are being introduced to brands now through marketing, not through sales. So the game has changed. So what does this mean that Timmy's buying journey looks like today? Well, it might look like he scrolls through a LinkedIn post one evening, finds something that's interesting, decides to click through, land on a blog, realizes that maybe there is a problem that he's facing, needs to be able to take action. So then he goes in the next day and says, all right, let me talk with my team, see if other people are facing that, and starts a discussion. Then he might go and follow up with some Google research. Maybe he downloads an ebook, the content kit, finds an infographic to be able to share with his team, maybe looks at that company's social presence. And what that has transformed into from that linear piece is something more like this. There are multiple contacts, on average 13, before they actually talk to your sales team. And one of the challenges with this is being able to create a single brand experience. Your customer does not care if you are in marketing and that other person is in sales and somebody else is in customer service. You are representing a given brand, and they expect that to be a consistent and seamless process and have everything tied together. And now, when we look at that, that sales call is more towards the end. The majority of the selling is really already done. And what this really means is that your marketing and sales motions have to align with your buyer's journey. You don't want to be fighting an uphill battle to sell in the way and in the places that they are not going. All right, taking a pause. Also, quick questions in there. I see, yes, the session is being recorded. We are going to share out slides afterwards and more tools. Now, how many of you have heard of inbound marketing? Drop it in the chat. Is this a brand new phrase? Have you maybe read a blog article on it? Are you already actioning on it? Where are you at? All right. Don't be shy. Drop it in. Let me know. So what traditionally customers are an output of marketing, of this funnel. They go marketing, sales, customers, done. What we use at HubSpot, what also Amazon uses, and where we see the way of the future is focusing this more on a flywheel effect, where customers are at the center and everything is integrated. So that way we can take people from being strangers to customers to promoters, and all the pieces of content actually connect to be able to allow customers to be at the center rather than as an output. So in traditional marketing, they're interruptive sales techniques. It's outbound, it's cold calls, it's cold emails. Inbound is more about creating content that is solving for your buyer's needs, that is creating value for them to be able to bring them to you. So that way they are trying to approach you rather than the other way around. Those leads convert something like 60% better. And it's just a much better experience for your customers. So it looks like there's a variety of familiarity with this. HubSpot also offers a free inbound certification. We coined the term inbound marketing. I highly suggest you dig into that, because especially if you're looking at content marketing, inbound is the theory behind it. This is what's going to underpin you making sure that it's not just spinning your wheels to create content, but it's going to be part of a strategy that's going to be effective, both in terms of your ROI and time spent. Now, this is what it looks like in a little bit more of a linear model. So first, your prospects are strangers. They are intro to a brand. They're going to your website. Then you're going to convert them into leads. That's where our sales team is taking over. And then they're going to connect and nurture those relationships until they can convert them into customers. And then the customers are going to convert into promoters, which are our favorite type of marketing because they're free. Now, in converting to inbound marketing, we really want to keep customers at the center of all we do, whether it's as a stranger or as a brand promoter. So we need to add in this kind of second layer of content marketing, which is a process of consistently publishing relevant content that audiences want to consume in order to reach, engage, and convert new customers. So really, consistency is key here. You can't just publish, one piece of content, two pieces of content, and expect that it's going to get you over the line. We saw that our average person is consuming 13. Doesn't mean that we can't build up to that. So we can talk about that a little more in the Q&A, depending on where you're at, where you're trying to go. But let's talk a little bit more about why content marketing. So why is it so important? It creates brand affinity. It can help you be able to leverage a competitive edge over your peers, rather than leveraging just one-off posts. It costs 62% less than traditional marketing. It also produces 3 times more leads per dollar invested. And 70% of consumers say content marketing makes them feel closer to the sponsoring company. So these are huge numbers to be able to look at our ROI. I also like to think about content marketing as generally these are evergreen items. When you are doing, I'm not knocking paid social or anything. That's also an important part of strategy. But a lot of your other strategies, you have to be able to continually feed the meter in order to get something back out. Your content marketing strategy, if done well, you can automate it. This can be evergreen and continue to churn leads for you, regardless of whether or not you are working on it at that moment. So let's get into it. Now we know what content marketing is. We know why it's so important, and we're going to go into the 7 steps of strategy. Okay, so strategy number 1, you have to be able to define your goals. If there's only one thing that you take away from this, marketing goals should be tied to revenue goals. If you are not tied to revenue, you're going to be treated as a second-class citizen within the business. You have to prove your ROI. And we have KPIs and we have actual goals for the team. So these are, and oftentimes our marketers struggle to be able to differentiate between the two. So KPIs help us to reach our goals. That might be how many impressions you have, how many clicks there was on a post, how many mentions there were on social, how many times people have visited your site, shared your content, how long they've been on before they've bounced. These are all important pieces to help you be able to benchmark how you're going to get to those end goals. Now, you demonstrate your ROI through your cost of acquisition. So when you are looking at your customer acquisition costs, you're looking at your sales and your marketing expense divided by the number of new customers acquired. Why this is really important, I know that this isn't a brand new concept, but if you can go and say, hey, our marketing team has built a system that has resulted in 50% of the pipeline being attributed to marketing, that's huge. You can say that the number of new customers acquired has resulted in, X% revenue growth or X% pipeline growth. That is really tying you to the exact dollar amount. Now, when you're defining your goals, you want to be able to leverage a marketing automation tool. Doesn't have to be HubSpot. I'm using an example of HubSpot because obvious, we work for HubSpot. But this is an example of a snapshot from within our system where it breaks out each mode of marketing channels and explains the revenue that is attributed to each. So I'm going to assume that this chart might be during COVID because our events and meetings are down here pretty low. But you can also look at this and say, okay, my landing page is generating over $617,000 in revenue. That this is where my blog post is generating revenue. So that way you can make some really strategic choices about what channels are working for you, which aren't, and where you want to lean into or out of. So if you look at the left, you know that there's some great content being pushed out. And when you can break down the ROI of each channel, then you're able to build that story. Now, here's a snapshot of metrics within the marketing automation tool. Again, you just need to be able to figure out how you track this. So on the left, you have sessions on your website. So how many people have visited your website? Where are the channels that they have came from? Are they coming from paid social, email? Are they coming from, your blog posts? So you can see how long each session is and which is the leading channel. So you can help to make some strategic decisions here. On the right-hand side, you can see, again, these are reports that are already built within HubSpot. If you're a user, it's very easy to plug them in. If not, you can perhaps look at this within the systems that you're using for marketing. But you also want to be able to track your clicks, your published posts, how they have been trending, what is getting the most reactions. This is going to be essential in helping you build that narrative so that way you can get more funding. This is going to help you work towards those revenue-driven goals. Now, I'm not going to spend long on this because I feel like you already understand a buyer persona. We know that that's a generalized representation of our ideal customer. So let's jump on to step 2 of determining your audience. Now, there are many characteristics that you can leverage when you're targeting your ideal audience. The challenge with sales is aligning with sales on the given persona that you want to go after in that quarter or in that year, because oftentimes marketers are going after one persona and sales is going after another, or sales doesn't know why marketing is targeting a given persona. So there's a lack of alignment there. So here are some characteristics we can leverage to understand, do we care about driving high revenue from just large companies? Or is it about just getting to specific job functions within a company? So that way you can just prospect and get them in the door. Or do you want to only target like a director or VP level? I mean, sales almost always wants the C-suite. That's not always possible, but making sure that you have that alignment is really important. And a lot of that comes through open channels of communication. Now, the next layer is being able to conduct a content audit. Maybe you have content out there already. Maybe you're early on in creating it. Drop it in the chat. Let me know. Do you already have content in place that you're trying to figure out what to do with? Are you brand new in your journey? Let us know where you're at so we can tailor this. All right. I'm going to give you guys a minute to drop in. Walter and I will be taking a look at your answers. But when you want to consider doing this audit is your inventory, your performance, and your alignment. So first, you want to look at which types of content you have tried, which have you not tried, and perhaps which can be repurposed. So maybe you have an ebook from last year that has gotten a little bit stale. But you can go in and highlight 3 key takeaways and then write a blog post on that to be able to make it brand new. Or you could take those 3 key takeaways, bring it to a leader, an executive, and be able to ask them to record a 2-3 minute video that highlights these key takeaways to share with your prospective customers on social media posts. And then that kind of can create some evergreen content that keeps that flywheel of conversations going. Now, the second piece is a little bit more self-explanatory. If you have a system where you're easily able to track metrics, again, one thing that I think is really important here is having a system that ties your sales, your marketing, and your CRM together. So you want to make sure that your sales team can understand the actions that you've taken in marketing and what the customer is engaged with so they can make the best of converting that prospect. You also want to make sure that you can track your content, see who's engaged with it. So that's part of the CRM. You're able to click in and see who's engaged with this particular blog post. Have they converted into customers? What is the ROI on that? That's the power of having all of that within one system. But at a minimum, you need to at least be able to track your content, see how it's performing, see what's your top performing, your lowest performing, and then be able to focus on that internal and external alignment. So at HubSpot, we call this smarketing, but it's important to have alignment that drives results that the business actually cares about. So does your content provide value? This part is about external alignment. Is this something that your prospect is valuing? Do they care about every solution that you have to offer? No, probably not. Not if they don't realize that they don't have a problem yet. So a prospect early on in the buyer's journey might need an ungated asset that doesn't require any commitment. And that might be something like a blog or a video that is informative, something that is quick. You don't want to ask for more commitment than they're ready for. But someone deep in the sales funnel, they might just need to hear 1 to 2 testimonials that you have in your back pocket to be able to convert them into a full-fledged customer. And it can be a process building these out. You might want to be able to start on taking, if you are brand new into this. So it looks like some of us have 50, blog articles. You have some content in place, fairly new, maybe 5 blog posts. Okay. Some of you have none. We're going to be able to give you some tips from everybody that has none to everybody that has, 1,000. So we can go from there, but it's about starting to build that content. If you don't have any yet, you can start building some of that, top of funnel content, mid funnel, bottom of funnel. Pick, 1, 2 a month to be able to build out that content and be able to eventually work your way up. We can go into that a little bit more later. Now, next step in our journey is selecting our content channels. There are so many out there. Again, I'm happy to delve into this a little bit more with you in our Q&A. We also have a great social media marketing education session, but these should all look familiar, and which ones you are going to pick depends on where, of course, your buyers and prospects are living, and also what it is that they expect to receive when they are in each one of these channels. So to give kind of an example, actually, I'll go back for a minute. You have to think about making sure that you have the right channel, the right content for the right channel. So when you're going into LinkedIn, this is something where we see a lot of B2B. This is where it's great to share thought leadership pieces, but it's not a good place to do hard sells. It's not a good place to be, posting photos of the warehouse, personal stories, etc. But those kind of behind the scenes looks into your business, into your employees, etc. That's great for Instagram. And when you're onto Facebook, you got to be thinking like, when I'm on Facebook, I'm looking at vacation photos, mainly my friends' dogs photos. I'm in a different mindset. So is the content that you are providing there, is it engaging? Is it fun? Is it social? And you want to make sure that you're not just duplicating the same content across channels, because otherwise I'm not going to follow you on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram if it's the same content. I want something fresh and new. Now, when we talk about selecting those content channels, there are a lot of different things to consider when evaluating the costs. So you want to think on the cost per click. And different channels, it's going to be very different. So these are upfront costs, but we still want to consider what is the overall cost of acquisition for that customer. And let's say like a lead on LinkedIn might cost $100 for your business, and the Facebook ad might cost $10. But if the quality on LinkedIn is better and you're converting 20% of those LinkedIn leads versus 5% from Facebook, LinkedIn might be your better strategy. So again, data piece, being able to link that to your actual inputs is really important. And this is what your marketing attribution tool like HubSpot can help you do, is attribute each lead to your channels. So think about this and the buyer behavior on each platform. Where are they spending their time? What are they looking at on these channels? And what type of content do they want to consume on these channels? Next, we want to be thinking about how do we determine the content and format that we are going to put onto each of these channels. So when we're determining the content and format, we want to incorporate some of these best practices. You need to know what each persona is looking to gain from us as their solution. So when you're creating buyer-focused content, you need to A/B test. You try to think about what will work. What do your competitors think work? What do your colleagues think that will work? And A/B test all that you're able to. Granted, I know you're not going to be able to A/B test everything, but make sure you do a little bit of A/B testing in each corner so that you have a good idea of how your content is performing. And always add value. So Walter and I are here today because we want to add value to you as part of our startup community, as potential or current customers. So I challenge you to try and do the same with your customers and prospects and try and lead with value. That's part of inbound, that's part of our content marketing. So that way they can convert to you more as their choice. Anybody on here that is married understands the idea that if you can get your partner to think that it's their idea, it's always going to convert and go over much easier. It's the same with our marketing. If you can get them to come to you and think it's their idea, all the better. They're going to go along with it a lot easier. So then you want to design your content for buyers at every stage of the journey. So we just looked at Timmy's 13 points of contact. If we only publish one piece of content, we are not going to be able to get him to where he needs to be to purchase. We also want to be able to create clear calls to action. If you have a YouTube video, are you asking them to subscribe? Are you asking them to download? Do you want them to register here, click here, etc.? One of the biggest mistakes that we see is that people put a lot of work into your content. A lot of you out there said, hey, I have blogs, blah, blah, blah. But are you giving them a way to convert? Because if not, you don't know what happens with the customers that leave your page. You have no way to nurture them. You have no way to be able to continue them down that funnel. So make sure everything you're putting out there has a call to action. And when you're mapping out logistics, you want to do this early and create a content calendar. So this can be really fun. When you have automation tools, you can set it and forget it. You can leverage these tools to be able to better automate. If you're looking at other brands and you're like, how do they have a new piece of content and post every single day? Like I remember as an entrepreneur, when I started out, I would get up in the morning and be like, I got to think of something creative and engaging, like a special and a post that I want to put out there. And it's tiring. And you also have so many other things you're doing. It's hard to be able to switch your mindset. So eventually when I went on to HubSpot, again, don't have to use that. I just carved out a couple hours in my month and I planned all of my posts for the month. I scheduled them to go out automatically. And then of course you have to monitor them, right? Something big might happen in the world. It might not be the appropriate time to be able to post that. You might need to be responsive to things. You can easily reschedule them, but you want to be able to create that content early on and have it scheduled so you can just set it and forget it. I'm going to pause here for just a second. Are there any questions so far before we move on? You can drop them into the Q&A or you can also drop them into the stage chat. All right. I see a few in there. I see Walter going through some of them. So I'm going to kind of move on to talking about how do we determine our content and formats. So here's kind of a quick example of creating content for every stage of your funnel. The top of funnel is your ungated assets that are going to provide value, but we're not going to overly ask. How many of you have actually, let's say, if we're looking at our top of funnel, your mid funnel, your bottom of funnel, how many of you guys have proposed on a first date? Let me know. There might be somebody out there that's really brave, but most of us don't propose on a first date. And if you did, you're probably going to get a strong reaction and probably some awkward moments. And that's what posting solely at that bottom of the funnel type of content does to your buyers. They need to be educated on your space. They need to be educated on your industry and your problems, the part of the tofu. If you try and just convert them right off the get, you're going to scare them away. You're going to make it awkward. Don't do that. You need to have content for each stage of the funnel. And when you get to the middle of your funnel, this is a little bit more in depth. This is where you allow to maybe have an ask that maybe you are asking for some information from them that you can feed into your CRM to be able to evaluate them as prospects. This is where we collect info, where we collect leads. I'm going to give you some more examples of this as we go. And then at our bottom of the funnel, this is our even higher asks. You've already courted them with tofu and mofu content, and now you can leverage your bofu content, where this is where you can use testimonials and a couple of demos to be able to turn them into customers. All right, now let's talk about how do you actually convert this traffic. First of all, this is such an important formula. You have to add more value than you extract. I'm going to ask you some questions, get your fingers warmed up. Let's get ready to type. So, what would somebody have to offer you? Pretend you're the customer, the prospect. What would somebody have to offer you to get your email? To be able to get you to give your email, what would they have to give you that you would sign up and say, yeah, I'll give you my email? Drop it in the chat, in our stage chat. Let's see. All right. Anybody have to give an email over? I know that I am signing up for maybe coupons. I might be signing up for an ebook. What else might you be giving your email for? All right, don't be shy. I swear, I don't bite. And if I did, I have shots. It's fine. Let me know what you've given your email for. Okay, a discount, maybe a white paper, free trial period. Nellie, Georges, thank you for not leaving me hanging. A free trial. All right, what about your social security number? What would somebody have to offer you for you to give your social security number? Drop it into chat. Some value in return. Okay, what would be valuable enough for you to give your social security number? Anything? Because I know I don't give it out every day. Robert, I agree. I have my throwaway email address too, but in any case, nothing. Christopher is like, absolutely not. I'm not giving chloroform. Okay, never giving it up. This is fair. You guys are a hard sell. Doctor's office, Heidi. So yeah, these are, $1 million, Leah. I agree. I would give you my social security number for that as well. So when I'm giving something like my social security number, this is something for like my taxes, for my doctor, for a job. So there is a much higher value that I'm receiving before I am going to give something of that caliber. And where I see the most drop off, so if you're like, hey, I have content out there and I put a call to action on it and blah, 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 and it's not performing, people are clicking away really quick, it might be because you're asking for too much up front. It's not right for the stage that they're at. So if you're going to give, a blog article or, an ebook, collecting an email is fine. If you're going to go into a consultation, something that's a little bit higher value, then it's okay to say, hey, what is your company size? What is your title? What is blah, blah, blah. Make sure that you are keeping this formula in mind. Now, to give you a couple of examples, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can convert and what some of that funnel might look like. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how to architect your content, because I just want to dabble in a little SEO. And then we're going to wrap it up with some examples of the content that you can create. Now, this is a website that I made for a friend of mine who's a plant-based personal chef in Boston. And essentially, she was giving out a lot of consultations, a lot of calls, a lot of manual work. But prospects weren't always qualified. She needs to be able to collect information about them and also educate them about what she does, because otherwise when they're coming to her, it's putting a large burden of time and effort on her to be able to educate them while consulting them. So what we did is, she's on our sales marketing hub. She has CRM, and she created different content through our landing pages. So maybe the first one is a blog post where it's like, top 10 reasons to go plant-based. And at the end, you have a way to convert, and you say, hey, we'll give you a couple recipes that will impress even your pickiest eater. If you want these recipes, give your first, last name, email, and tell me where the majority of your meals come from. So that way she can start to qualify them. It's a simple ask, but now they've already read your blog post. And then you can automate a follow-up email that says, okay, they downloaded the content, follow-up email that says, hey, if you liked this, I think you might like this next piece of content. So this is how we start to nurture them through that funnel. Then you give them that next piece of content, might be something like, how do you, how do you pick a great plant-based, meal company? What are the things to look for? How do you differentiate them? Might be like, how do you get your nutritional value? Whatever, a blog post that goes a little bit more in depth. Again, she's not direct selling here. She's educating the prospect. She's showing her knowledge. She's positioning herself as an expert and then being able to give value so that way they can convert. And in the meantime, you read the blog, you get to the end and say, would you like a list of our favorite, substitutes? This is all linked to her CRM. So we'll automatically link their info from the last form into their info from this form. And you can ask a little bit more, like, where do you live? Because she only services the Boston area. And how much do you spend a month on groceries? So that way she has an idea of, are you within the realm of the customers that can afford my product? Those are a couple of ways that you can lead them through the funnel where you can convert on landing pages. You can just create a couple of pieces of content to be able to convert them at first and then be able to build that out. And when you pair that with email automation that links back to your CRM, then you can have all the info about that prospect in one place where sales is also able to tap in and say, oh, they read this blog article and this blog article. That might mean that they're interested in this type of content. That might mean that I already have an idea onto if they can afford us, where they live, etc. And it helps with our prospecting process. And converting through landing pages is great, but I'd say bots are the way of the future. So this is a bot that we built for her. It took me maybe 30 minutes tops to be able to create a flow that is able to qualify these prospects, feed it into the CRM so that she can create automated, scalable responses. So Walter just asked, great, who uses chatbots? Doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be live. It can go to your email. You can respond later. But there are a lot of different opportunities to be able to utilize chatbots to convert. Now, we're getting towards the end here. Don't cry. It's fine. We'll still have Q&A. But let's dabble into a little bit of one of my other favorite topics, that is SEO, and talk about how do you architect that content. I saw that a handful of you, some of you are at the beginning. That's great. That means that you can kind of architect it the way you want. Some of you I see on here have 50, 100 or more content pieces and blog articles. Now, it's not just about creating the content out there, but it's also about how do you make sure that you can be found online. And the way that you can do this is through something called topic clusters. Again, warm up your fingers, get in the chat, tell me who has heard about topic clustering before. All right, let's see. So this is a strategy to be able to help you present as an expert within your chosen strategy or content area, and it's going to help you show up higher on your SEO results. Now, when HubSpot realized that this was a winning strategy, we already had 14,000 content pieces out there, and re-architecting them was really painful, but so worth it. All right, looks like it's new for a lot of us. Okay, I'm going to spend a couple minutes digging into this. Now, your topic clusters in the center here is your pillar page. This is your main page that is going to mention a little bit about each one of these pages. So for example, here's a topic cluster that we have for organic search for SEO. This is one on Instagram. So we have a blog post that is Instagram Marketing, the Ultimate Guide. Great content on there. Google all of this on HubSpot. We had 14,000 pieces of content. Now I have no idea, tons. So this is our main page. And then in it, there's hyperlinks to some of our other blog posts around the same topic. Like, how do you add, a story to how do you add a link to your Instagram story? Maybe how does buying Instagram followers work? How do you get sponsored on Instagram? So you have that main pillar page, which is the overall source of information, and it hyperlinks to all of these other pieces of content. What this does is that there are web crawlers that are figuring out what is your page an expert in, what are you an expert in, and trying to figure out how popular your content is. These web crawlers are able to go and search keywords on your site. It's not just about stuffing keywords anymore. That is old strategy. It's not going to work. But it's about figuring out how is your content connected to be able to figure out what you're an expert in. So if you are going to search for Instagram marketing, this is going to come up and it's going to link to each one of these. The better that this page performs, the better that all of these pages are going to perform. They're going to go up in their ranking. And I know that this might be a little bit abstract. If you want more info, Google HubSpot topic clusters, and it's going to go into a video and into a blog post of how you actually architect this. But I'm going to give you an example that I really like. So if you are somebody who already, so yes, it links to subpages, Nicola. This is your pillar page, a link to subpages. I'll give you an example what that looks like. It could be for blog content. It could be for other types of content. But also each one of these pages will link back to the pillar page. That's how you show the web of connections. For you, you want to be thinking about when you're building these topic clusters, what are the areas that you want to be an expert in? What do you want to show up for in SEO? And then be able to create content around that to be able to nurture these prospects. So I'm going to go out of this real quick. Now, this is one of my favorite examples. If you Google traffic safety cones, we have our paid, whatever. This is our first organic SEO. First, I see traffic safety store. Then I see Home Depot, Amazon, Walmart's probably somewhere in here. Okay, Lowe's, Walmart. That's what's showing up on page one. Let's check out who our first person is. So traffic safety cone store shows up number one in SEO rank results. Why? Look at this page. They do not have the marketing budget of Walmart, of Amazon, of Home Depot, but they're showing up number one because they use a topic clustering method. This is an example not using blogs, but you can do the same thing using blogs. This is their main pillar page, their home page. They've really thought about their persona. What are the questions that they're going to ask? So having targeted SEO of what makes a cone legal for road use? When are they used? Talking about cone sizes and colors. So they've really thought about like, what is my persona actually looking to learn? And this is going to help them rank. Now on this main pillar page, if you want to dig into more about like orange cones or blue cones or yellow cones, which I know is the question on all of our minds right now, what do I do with the yellow cone? But you can dig into this and it's going to take you to a separate link that's going to tell you all about yellow cones that is going to link back to this one. They architected their page in a way using topic clusters to be able to improve their SEO ranks, that they are outperforming Home Depot, Amazon, all of those with less budget. So this is part of why it's really important as a startup to be thrifty and to have great strategies so that you can compete with the big guys and become the big guys or girls. That's fine too. All right. Now I just want to wrap up with talking a little bit about determining content and format. Again, this can really come down to your tools. So this is what automating within HubSpot looks like. Again, there's other tools out there to be able to do social media posts. It's just important that you make sure that all of these tools are linked so you get great actionable insight and data. So this is an example of how you could post through a third-party platform onto Twitter. It shows your title, your copy, your landing page. This is everything that your prospect needs to see and still be able to set the date. This is really essential when your bandwidth is limited. You need to be able to create a content schedule. So this is an example of what that schedule might look like. Maybe you outlined all of your posts for the month. It can tell you what are the ideal times to publish for you to get the most readership. That can happen automatically. You can post across multiple channels, be able to tweak what that content looks like, and you can be able to drag and drop to move them around as you build them. So that's a little bit of idea of what that content calendar looks like. And then once you've been able to publish your content, now is the time to be able to monitor it. You can sit back, relax, but still listen, because you don't want conversations going on social that you are not a part of. But this is really the fun part. You've put in the legwork. Now you want to be able to see how your efforts pay off and watch the engagement rise. And then this is even more fun part. You can share your results with your leadership once you've tracked and measured all of these different attributes and you've selected your automated content marketing system. And it's going to help you track and produce ROI that you can share with your leadership. And if your leadership is you, then it's going to share with you and you're going to pat yourself on the back with it. All right, that wraps us up to some of our takeaways. So make sure that you are aligning your journey, your marketing motions with your buyer's journey, and that you're also aligning with sales. So it's you at the end need to be able to figure out what that ROI is, make sure those customers convert. That's going to happen through alignment with both of those key stakeholders. And your content marketing could be used to solve all of your top 3 challenges that you're facing: generating leads, providing ROI, which is also going to help you secure more budget. And you can build an effective content strategy in just 7 steps. You have to define your goal, identify your target audience, conduct a content audit, select which channels you want to post on, determine that content and formats, publish and monitor your content, and then you're going to share your results. And make sure that your goals are tied directly to revenue. All right. Whew. Okay, that was a lot of talking. We are now jumping into the Q&A. As promised, I'm also going to ask Walter to drop in the unique partner link. So this is just for Startup Grind, that enables you to access all of these tools that we have discussed at a high discount, and also enables you to get more educational resources like this. The other thing that I want to drop into here is a couple of content pieces that I think you will enjoy. I dropped them into the stage chat. You don't want to learn about traffic cones unless you do. You know how to Google them. They are right in there. And just to give you a little bit of additional info, when you apply for this program through Startup Grind, you also have access to all of our startup growth resources. So when I was a founder, I found myself spending a lot of time creating templates for business plans, for social media, for my pitch deck, even just having your sales or marketing email templates. All of it is drafted out in here and free for you. So you can enjoy some of that content to be able to help you scale faster. Additionally, as part of this program, you can also access free academy resources and be able to help you troubleshoot for what it is that you are working on, and be able to get some content to help you solve for it. And lastly, we have another 25 or so partners. So once you come on to HubSpot for Startups program, you're eligible for, on average, it's about a $20K discount, but you're eligible for another 60 to 80K in discounts from our partners like Carta, from AWS, $5,000 in credits, Airtable, Vidyard. There's a whole host of them on here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's turn it over to Q&A.
Thanks, Kelsey. That was great content. So we do have a few questions. So Nicola, I guess this is pertaining to the last portion of the presentation. So the pillar page should be like a table of contents. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Nicola, I see you're like, I don't see any other way to link 100 plus pages from a pillar page unless you have a web shop. So I think not quite. You're getting it partially, but it's not meant to be like a table of contents. It's meant to be like a content piece. So let's take, for example, I'm going to share my screen here and I'll show you pillar page. It doesn't necessarily need to be one page that defines your whole business. You want to have multiple different areas of expertise that you build topic clusters around. So for example, my friend who's the chef, she might have pages that are linked to nutrition. She might have ones that are linked to cooking skills. Those might be different bubbles that she has. Now, if I were to look at this link that I just shared, Ultimate Guide to Content Marketing, we know that, so side note, HubSpot can also help you look at your website and figure out what types of things you should be building topic clusters around. So that's an actual tool. But if outside of that tool, you can also figure out how to do that on your own. So content marketing is something that we want to have a topic cluster around. HubSpot wants to be known as an expert for content marketing. So we have this page as the pillar page. You can, if you want to sharpen your skills with the help of a content marketing workbook, you click here. So that's linked. This web page will link back to this one. Maybe I want to learn about outbound marketing, inbound, or be able to look at social media content marketing. All of these are different pages that are linked out from this one and link back to this page. So that way, when web crawlers are trying to figure out what we are an expert in, they're going to see all of this linked content about content marketing, and they're going to say, okay, this is somebody that I want to surface for that. So I hope that that's helpful.
Awesome. And I think we have time for another one from Rishi. Is it important to have separately curated content for all marketing platforms?
You have to tell me a little bit more what you mean by that. So are you talking about like on different social media platforms having different content, or
yeah, let's see if Rishi will respond. I guess we go to the next one from
here,
Dana.
I'll say something to that too, Rishi, while you respond. So it doesn't have to be totally separate content on your social media platforms, but you could take it and present it in different ways. So maybe YouTube, you're doing a video about your 3 takeaways and you're engaging in, a discussion, and that content also mirrors what you have in a blog post. You can do that. You just don't want to be posting the exact same thing on all of your different platforms. That's redundant and it's not providing value.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think one more question we have from Dana. How do you structure the funnel content? Do you just post a healthy amount of each, or is there a specific way to structure it?
Good question. So when I'm thinking about my funnel content, you want to be able to build for each part of the funnel. And this is something where, figure out, is it you that is the writer? I think generally from within your own business, you have the best idea of your content. So I would start there. And you can just build out, like when I did for my friend who's the plant-based chef, we started with just 3 pieces of content, something top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom of funnel. And then we use that to be able to create an automated nurturing workflow. It sounds complicated. It's not as complicated as it really is, because it took us maybe a week to set up her whole website and platform and all of the automation behind it. So just have a starting place and then set yourself a goal of being able to build it out from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey. And then Claire, I don't know if we still have time for more questions, but
yeah, I'll take another one.
Yeah, we could do another question. Let's see here. Let's go to, see if we have anybody else on here. Does a pillar strategy page work for a blog site or a blog business?
Both. I mean, at blog business, you still want to be able to be a content expert in certain areas, and you can architect your content marketing content around that.
Awesome.
All right. Passing over, I see Claire is on. I will take a step back. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
That was awesome and perfectly within the time frame for our event. So thank you guys so much. I learned a lot, based on the interactions in the chat, which was incredible. I think everybody else did too. So this was awesome. Thank you, Walter and Kelsey. This was really, really awesome. I really appreciate this, and I know that our members do too.